Hey, what's up, guys? Chris Fluke here, Chris Fluke Podcast, episode number 144. I hope you guys all took my advice and reached out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while, an old friend, an old relative, somebody from your past that you're just like, hey, whatever happened to X, Y, and Z? Because this week, I stopped at the location of my old gym where Brickhouse Strength once was and caught up with my old friend, Frank Donley. Now, Frank and he was one of my first friends in the fitness world, and over the years, man, people come and go in this world, in this community that we work in. People quit, people change jobs, they change careers, they move, whatever it may be. But he's been one constant, I would say, over the last 10 or 12 years, however long I've been doing this fitness thing. And so it was good catching up with him. And while we were talking, he's like, hey, I switched to that eating routine that you used to do, this eating window thing. Whereas back in the day, he used to do, I guess what we would call some sort of intermittent fasting, where he would fast until like noon, eat in the middle of the day to late in the day, all right? Then he would go to bed and just repeat that over and over again. So let's just say his eating window, let's just say he ate between 12 and 8 p.m., right? So that's an 8-hour eating window. What I was doing back in the days, I would eat between, say, like 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., so I would still have that 8-hour eating window, but I would kind of front load my calories and eat primarily in the mornings and early afternoon. And then I would go to work in the evening, come home, drink some tea, get myself ready for bed, and hopefully get a good night of sleep. So the reason I really got into this eating style was because of the potential sleep benefits, is that I didn't want to be digesting a meal at bedtime, all right? So that was one key component to it. Because when you lay down, and if you're trying to rest your body, you're trying to get the heart rate down, the blood pressure, and all this other stuff down and relaxed, your body doesn't want to be using up energy to break down that food that is in your gut and kind of digest, right? We don't want to be going through that digestive process. So that was one big thing for me. Another reason is that I've read, I tend to, I've talked about it before, man. I tend to slip up a little bit with my diet sometimes and get my hands on some sweet treats, if you catch my drift. So it's basically with my 8-hour eating window in the first part of the day, if you end up eating something, your body's glycemic response is much lower if you eat that food. Say it's a big cookie, right? Say you eat that cookie at 10 a.m. When you compare your response to that cookie, your blood sugar, all that stuff, right? If you compare your response to that cookie from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., your body's going to respond better at 10 a.m. I didn't do the research. I'm repeating what Rhonda Patrick talked about on multiple podcast episodes and with reports that she has out. Just type in Rhonda Patrick time-restricted eating if you want some of the science behind it. So, for me, it was a double whammy. It was, I could still eat a little bit of junk, right? If I wanted to. I try not to, but hey, stuff happens, right? So if you eat that, your body's going to handle it better in the daytime. And as long as you don't eat a few hours before bed, your body is going to be able to get into a restful state sooner, so hopefully you can get a good night's rest. So again, this time-restricted eating protocol, let's just say it's anywhere between 8 and 12 hours. You could still eat the same diet that you have, just restrict it to 8 to 12 hours and try to eat it, the clock starts whenever you have your first meal. Now, there's controversy. Does coffee count? Does it not count? Whatever. I don't know. I drink a ton of coffee early in the morning, so in that case, I keep my eating, if we do count coffee, I keep my window between 11 and 12 hours, which is fine. If we don't count coffee, my eating window of actually consuming food and calories is more about 8 hours. So maybe if you do drink some coffee or tea early in the morning, that caffeine might kickstart a response in your body. So maybe you take 12 hours from that point. If you don't count your coffee, then just take 8 hours from when you first have your first bite of food. All right? How about that? Time-restricted eating. It's a good solution. It works for me. It allows you to still have somewhat of a normal diet, right? Where you could eat some of the foods that you usually eat. Maybe your wife makes a wonderful dinner for you. Maybe your kid wants to get a burger and fries, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to get a burger and fries with my beautiful little daughter, right? That's fine. Keep the window, and you're going to feel good. The days that I don't, if I feel like I'm like, hey, you look at yourself, and you're like, hey, I'm starting to get a little extra fat on this belly, right? You look at yourself, you say like, yeah, I think I probably gained some weight. It's usually associated with me eating outside of that window. So as long as if I stay strict, if I stay in that 8 to 12 hours, good to go. It is when I don't do that and I end up consuming calories throughout the entire day that, weight starts coming on and all that stuff, right? So there's a quick little guide. You don't have to change much. You don't have to overhaul your diet, right? If you have people in the house that aren't supportive of you trying to eat healthier, just try to keep it in that window. And I hope that you will get some results from it, all right? Peace, everybody.